RevPro and CMLL's Fantastica Mania in the UK 2025 Show 2 was a show that built itself into something good before the main event knocked it back down. You had two great matches in the middle of the card, a solid mid-card overall, but the opening was weak and the main event was a disappointment, which is a problem when you're talking about a big title match. Fuego and Gale versus Dave Francisco and Okumura opened the show at just 2 stars. And this was your standard tag team formula that didn't really give you anything to separate it from 1,000 other opening tags that you've seen before. Francisco and Okumura won with a bridge pin, and I thought the pacing was fine. The structure was held together. But when a match just checks the boxes without adding anything that makes you remember it, you're looking at something that exists without making an impression. Not bad, not good, just professional and competent in a way that doesn't matter. This is the kind of match where everyone does their job, it ends, and you move on. Esfinge versus Leon Cage was 2.5 stars, and this had chemistry that was starting to work before they went home too early. Esfinge, he won with a bridge, and the problem here was time. Cage hit a 450 splash that showed you where this match could go, and right when that chemistry was becoming something that they could build on, they just finished. This needed a few more minutes to let what was working actually develop. You got a match that showed potential without delivering on it. And that's a little bit frustrating because the pieces were there. At 2.5 stars, you're looking at something better than okay, but not quite good because it didn't get that runway. Felino Jr. and Robbie X versus the Bryant brothers was 2.75 stars of solid action built on pace. Leland and Xander Bryant matched up well with X and Felino Jr., and the work here was mostly balanced, which kept things moving without one team doing all the heavy lifting, and Felino Jr. and Robbie X won with a running high kick. The pace pretty much kept you engaged, but this didn't have that extra layer that pushes something into that 3-star range. The action was good enough to be solid, the teams worked well together, and the pace made sure that you stayed with it. But solid doesn't mean memorable. And this was a competent tag team wrestling match at a decent clip, but it didn't give you much beyond that. So 3 matches in, you had nothing over 2.75 stars, which is not how you want to start a show, but things did pick up. Teton versus Difunto was 3.5 stars, and this was really good because they got the time to work with. Teton, he won via submission, which fit how they built the match, and both guys contributed equally here. The standout moment to me was Teton hitting a double foot stop on the apron, which is kind of the spot that elevates a match when you're already working at a good level. When you give 2 wrestlers who can work the time to develop sequences instead of rushing through it, you get matches like this. They had the time to let things breathe and make the submission finish belong at the end of what they built here. This was balanced work that they used the time very, very well. Connor Mills, Jay Joshua, and Ultimo Guerrero taking on CPF was 3.5 stars, but a different kind of 3.5 stars. Mills, Joshua, and Guerrero won with a submission, and I thought the energy, the spots, the interactions combined to deliver something entertaining rather than great wrestling was spot on here. Mills, Joshua, and Guerrero, they work pretty fine together. And this is the kind of match where the rating comes from everything doing their part, everybody doing their part, and the whole thing being enjoyable without being technically excellent or memorable beyond the moment here. Fun versus really good, both at 3.5 stars. Then you get to the best matches on the show. Lio Rush versus Mascara Dorada was 4.25 stars, and this was just great, which is what you expected going in when you looked at the match on paper. Dorada, he won with a shooting star press that fit well with what they were doing here. This is what separates a great match from a really good one. The execution, the timing, the way both guys work together at a higher level. Rush and Dorada balanced the work between them, and when you put 2 wrestlers like this together, the match on paper tells you it should be great, and sometimes it doesn't happen. This time though, it definitely did. They gave you what you came to see, and the shooting star press gave you a finish that belonged in that 4.25 star match. Hechicero versus Xelhua was also 4.25 stars, but came from a completely different place. This was a great technical wrestling match with Hechicero leading the way and Xelhua following that lead. Hechicero won, and what made this work at a high level was how Hechicero controlled the technical wrestling aspect, while Xelhua hit reversals that gave you the impression that he had a chance of winning. That's the art of technical wrestling here. The dominant wrestler leading, but the other guy getting enough to make you think he can pull it off. This delivered on the technical side the same way Rush versus Dorada delivered on their athletic side. Hechicero was in control, but Xelhua's reversals kept it from being one-sided and gave it the drama that it needed to be great. So you had 2 4.25 star matches back to back, and you're thinking the show is heading somewhere good. And then the main event happened. Mistico defending the CMLL World Light Heavyweight title against Michael Oku, in which Mistico retained with the La Mystica, was just disappointing for me at just 2 3/4 stars. The problem here was time. When you go in expecting a great match between Mistico and Oku for a championship, instead you just get something that feels rushed and doesn't click the way that it could have. That's where the disappointment comes from. This wasn't the same 2 3/4 stars as the Bryant Bros tag. That was solid action that hit its ceiling. This was a match that should have been great, but didn't get there because it felt rushed at times and the finish just came off weird. When you have the talent, the stage, and a title on the line, but you don't give it the time to develop in what it should be, you get this disappointing match that leaves you wondering and wanting what could have been. This show built through 3 weak opening matches into a really good match, then 2 fun, really good 3.5 star matches, then 2 great 4.25 star matches, and then the main event brought it back down to 2 3/4 stars. That's a problem. Your title match should be the peak of the show, and instead it was barely better than your opener. The 2 great matches saved the show from being worse, but when your main event disappoints, and your opening 3 matches are all below 3 stars, you're looking at a show that's passable, but not good. The middle was strong, but shows need to start well and then end well. And this one didn't either. I give this a 7.5 out of 10.